Thank you for attending. Welcome to our very last Let's Talk About. So these have been our week daily presentations throughout September to honor Suicide Prevention Month and to promote good mental health and promote all the great things that exist in our community that promote mental health. And I think this is number 21, number 22, something like that. And we just want to recap a little bit and talk about what's going to happen going forward. So we have a nice collection of NAMI Juneau and Juneau Suicide Prevention folks here to do so. And I, as my little name tag on Zoom implies, I straddle both worlds. So like always, if you want to watch with closed captioning, you can do so on Zoom. There's a link in the Facebook post if you want to switch over from Facebook to Zoom. And I'm just trying to talk a little bit slower than I normally would so I can also share it to the NAMI Juneau Facebook page. And I'm about to do that. Great. And so with that, let's get started. So this has been a long, I wouldn't say long month. There's been a lot of talking this month, a lot of presentations this month. But our work isn't done. So we still have some great things coming up. We have some new projects, different projects that we're excited about. And we want to share those. And I want to put them in the context of the two entities that are involved here. So NAMI Juneau and Juneau Suicide Prevention Coalition. And we're all colleagues. We all work together. Our paycheck is all signed by the same people. But it is two separate entities with two different but very overlapping missions. So NAMI Juneau, at its core, provides support groups and educational programs around mental health. It's aimed at both individuals experiencing mental illness as well as family members of individuals experiencing mental illness to make sure that those folks have the support and information that they need to be successful in their roles in the world. And then we also just do general mental health promotion. We want to educate the world so that we can reduce stigma and promote the stuff that helps. And Juneau Suicide Prevention Coalition is largely similar. Like, we want to prevent suicide, but preventing suicide isn't just having that conversation in the moment. If your friend is saying, I'm suicidal right now, and you're worried about them in the moment, although that is an important thing to talk about and to educate folks on. But you also, when you go upstream from that, and you look at all the different events in one's life that lead to that moment, a lot of it is about promoting good mental health, making sure that the person has solid, safe, supportive connections in their life, that they understand what it means to promote mental health and all the different ways that you can promote good mental health, and connecting to community resources. So there's all kinds of stuff, a lot of overlap in the two messages from the two organizations. So let's just get into a little bit what we have coming up. Debbie, you've been a volunteer with NAMI Juneau for a long time, and you're a board member and a super volunteer at the moment, and probably for that entire long time that you've been around. So what do we have coming up in the NAMI Juneau world?
Hey, NAMI Juneau is busy. You know, if you're out there and you're someone who wants some support, either because you're living with a mental health condition or because someone you love does, we have online support groups, and you can access them through the namijuneau.org website, or even by calling the office and getting information from them. Those are ongoing and they're just very well received. You know, just the idea of that you're not alone in this time where we're pretty isolated. We've also got some education classes. So in, let's see, October the 20th, October 20th, we're starting a family to family class. That's online. It's going to be 8 weeks of, you know, little over 2 hours on Zoom. And it is a wonderful class that provides a wealth of information about serious mental illness. And so if you are a family member who's you know, needing some more information and some skill building, come join us. We also have a similar program, but it's targeted towards school-age children, and that's called NAMI Basics. and NAMI National has started a Basics on Demand program. So you can actually tap into that. And I haven't taken the class, but I've talked to people who have, and they've said that it's been excellent. Good. And then last but not least, we've got a family and friends presentation. That's a 2-hour presentation that's taking place tomorrow. And it's, you know, it's like family to family, but it's on drugs. You know, it's fast. You know, they're gonna take you through medication and take you through the brain and take you through, just give you a lot of wonderful information. So yeah, NAMI Juneau's here. We're busy and happy to be of service to the community.
Thanks, Debbie. And like I mentioned, those support groups and the programming, that's the core of what NAMI Juneau does.
It is.
We also have this other piece of the work, and that's just general promotion of good mental health.
Yeah.
And something that I just learned last night is I haven't told any of you yet, I don't think, we received a grant from the state to give scholarships to therapists in town to receive trauma training. So I think we'll be able to offer scholarships to 12 therapists, $500 each to pursue trauma training in whatever way they want to pursue trauma training. So
Fabulous.
another example of promoting good mental health outside of our core stuff, which is those support groups and programming. So more information to come about that and how to apply and all that good stuff. But that in a nutshell is the NAMI Juneau stuff. We want to educate the community through classes. We have these support groups. And then just a grab bag, whatever else we can do, like offer scholarships when that opportunity comes around. Let's move on to the suicide prevention world now. So we have a suicide prevention coalition, a Juneau suicide prevention coalition, and we've been around for 12 years, and it started in high schools, and it's expanded into all kinds of community endeavors. And again, like it's been a grab bag in terms of the community piece. There's always some sort of outreach, some way that we want to educate the community, train folks in suicide prevention. So Tina, can you tell us a little bit about what we have on the horizon for suicide prevention activities?
Absolutely. First, I want to say that as you had said, Erin, is that suicide prevention, so much of it is upstream, right? So much of it is upstream, and we have this beautiful overlap with NAMI Juneau in promoting mental health. So what we have coming up most immediately is in working with our schools. Some of these are just with the students, and then some of these are going to be with both students and families. So we have a series of school events coming up, and depending on the age, some of those will look at recognizing what our universal needs are, right? So our universal protective factors. So we identify those, we recognize that we all have those, and then we'll go through the process of identifying who our support groups are, right? How do we connect with those resources that are available? How do we define those? And so that is a lot of it with some of the younger kids, and it'll be pulling into what the work that was done in the first quarter and carrying out through the positive mental health in the second quarter. With some of the older kids, we are doing a version of signs of suicide. Again, recognizing what those protective factors are, but absolutely knowing what some of the signs are. And you know, it's tricky, as is everything, right? Like life isn't tough enough, but then we add COVID to the mix. So we try to bring in what some of those warning signs can be without offering a trigger. So that will be interesting. But one of the biggest things that, oh, I don't have it with me. You know, my handy dandy thing would say, who has one of these, right? And that would be a cell phone. And there would be very few that wouldn't. But one of the things that we want to leave with everything, thank you, that we have to say is that there is, the care line is downloadable. So you just type in Careline, right? Careline app, and download it. And if you get nothing else out of it, get that, know where your help is. And that's the biggest message I think that we can give to our kids right now, is that we are here. Likely there will come a time when you have need, and the message is that we all have needs, and we all are also in a position to lift somebody up. So really excited about that. And then one last thing that I want to say is that we do offer training, not just for the schools, but we offer training for organizations. And so you'll have our contact information. I don't want to take up the full hour on that, but we will be here, and we would love to partner with you if there's something that we can bring to your organization.
Thanks, Tina. And just to clarify, it's the Alaska Careline app. So I think
I'm
if you
sorry.
get Careline,
Yes.
you'll probably get something good, but there's an Alaska specific Careline. And that is, like, if there's one resource we can tell people about, it's probably that. Luckily, we have the luxury of doing much more than just talking about one resource. We can get into all these different deep trainings. Yeah, so thanks, Tina. And Rob, you're doing some youth specific programming. Can you give us a little overview of what you have on the docket?
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron. And hello to everyone. Ordinarily, we would be implementing a Sources of Strength program in the high schools that has existed here in Juneau for many years, and is kind of the quintessential upstream version of things to promote peer leadership and engage with students, do some suicide prevention. However, due to these circumstances, we're going to be implementing next month a online version. We're going to try to maintain all the core ideas and ideals of it. Going to be peer leadership and peer support. And my coworker Mel will be taking the lead on some of the support aspects of that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are planning to do a lot of multimedia. We're going to be doing a combined high school lip dub. In case you don't know what that is, go look it up. They're very fun. We're going to be doing one of those for our fall semester, the second quarter. So keep an eye open for that. It's for teenagers all throughout the Juneau School District. We will be releasing some of that more details about how that's going to roll out. We have one adult advisor that has signed on, and we might be in the market for another one. So if you are interested in participating in a very fun project that's very good for kids and supporting our students and our families, please keep us in mind.
Oops. Very excited to see how that goes. And you all, meaning you and Mel in particular, have been great in trying to craft something that works, given that we're in a pandemic and everything is goofy and virtual now. So well done. Mel, can you just give us a little hint of what you're planning a little bit further into the future? You have a project coming up that I think is very exciting.
Sure. So I'm in the midst of conceptualizing an advocacy-based project. And I haven't fully started implementing this project, but the idea behind it is to have a presentation about serious mental illness from people with lived experience, myself included, and give this presentation to community organizations, mental health professionals, and anyone who could benefit from learning about severe mental illness from people with that experience, to foster empathy and understanding and center people's voices who typically aren't centered in these conversations. So I'm really excited to be working on that in the following months.
We're very glad to have you with us while you work on that. That's awesome. Thank you. So that's just some of the stuff we have coming up, and we're excited about it. And we want to let you know, first of all, to advertise those things, but also just to illustrate the point that the work doesn't stop, even though this series that so many folks have been awesome in following is coming to a close. And before we totally close this series out, we wanted to just recap the month a little bit. So we had presentations about community resources, and we had, I think, definitely over 10 partner organizations, I think 15, come on and share their expertise and what they have going on. We had some suicide prevention trainings, some trainings that are very explicit to what to do in the moment when someone's in a crisis. And we also had a lot of presentations just about mental health promotion in general, youth mental health, art therapy, people sharing their stories of recovery. And we also had folks promoting advocacy, and particularly how to be a good advocate. So we had a fun, enjoyable, interesting grab bag of different types of presentations throughout the month. And I thought maybe we'd just take a minute to highlight the ones that this group here, us 5 people in 4 panels, thought were particularly noteworthy throughout the year. Mel, how about if you go first? Do you want to let us know one of the presentations that you thought was noteworthy in some way and what stuck out to you about it?
Yeah, so hosting or just attending these events has been really interesting, especially for me who's new to Juneau, and getting to know all of these community organizations has been great. But what really stood out to me, and I believe week 3, was the presentation on advocacy on a state level from Sarah Hannon, because that's just something that is really interesting to me and something that I think kind of gets lost in conversations about suicide prevention sometimes, how we can advocate on a structural level and in a political sphere. So that was really enlightening for me, because I also just am not as familiar with Alaska and Alaskan politics. So I really enjoyed that.
And the thing that stuck out the most with me from her presentation is to channel your inner 15-year-old, like the 15-year-old that's lobbying their parents to take the car out, and the parent starts at no, and you want to get that parent to yes. So what's going to be your most effective ammo, for lack of a better term, to get your parent to change from no to yes? Loved that. I thought that was a great analogy, and it makes so much sense. Have your goal in mind. You want to change this person's mind to yes on something. What's the best information you can bring to that? She was awesome. Rob, can you share one presentation that you thought was noteworthy?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. There were so many great ones. One that stands out, though, kind of as a follow-on to what Mel had just said. As a longtime Juneau resident, being here 30 some odd years, still following those every day made me aware, even as a longtime resident, of all of the wonderful support systems and advocacy groups and things that are organizations that are in our community. So it was great. The one that did stand out to me, though, was our very own coworker, Megan Gunkel, and her art therapy. That was so much fun and so wonderful. And it was especially good for me because I'm the last person ever picked on the Pictionary team. And she made it so accessible with the scribbling and just really, really wonderful, very engaging and open, and able to jump right in and start with art without that sort of fear of not being able to draw very well. So I really got a lot out of that one.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think it was fun. Yeah, it makes art therapy accessible. It's fun to have a version of therapy that you can demonstrate to somebody. I think that makes the concept of therapy much more accessible to somebody who might otherwise be turned off by it. So it was a great presentation. Tina, do you have one that you'd like to share?
Well, I have to say, Aaron, that I just I'm really feeling restricted with having to pick one. Yeah, just have to say that, recognize it. But I think, since I can only pick one, first I thought they were all great, but I really enjoyed tribal family and youth services. And I think what I really enjoyed about it first is the breadth. And the same reason that I enjoyed the whole series is the breadth of what they do, and they're working together. And that's how I see this community as well. Within one department, that's how I see this community of working together in meeting critical needs, but also meeting those needs with a depth of understanding of historical trauma, and meeting people where you are, and just really full of love and grace, I thought. And yeah, so I appreciated that. I appreciated their breadth and their depth.
And I think, we all have our little offices here, and then we have a common area in the middle. And after that one, we all ran out into the common area and cooed about it for a while. And I think that you nailed it, like breadth and depth. Like those are people that are clearly passionate, who are clearly intelligent, and who understand their niche, their role in addressing issues that are larger than them, but they work together so that they understand their piece and they understand how working together with others increases the reach and impact and all that good stuff. So they were wonderful. Debbie, which presentation stuck out to you? And you are mostly muted. Yeah.
Well, Mel, I like the advocacy as well, but I want to talk about Hannah Wesolowski. She's the national advocacy person for NAMI National. And I thought she made some really good points that I'm going to kind of hang on to, like saying that that policymakers want to hear from their constituents. They don't necessarily want to hear from everybody, but if you vote for them, they want to make their door open to you. And that, if they're not available, that their staffer is important, and that they have a lot of influence, and that one of the things that we can do is to build relationships with their whole office, everybody who's there. That and she stressed over and over that every phone call, every email, every contact counts, and that what we should do if we're going in there, and we hope we do if we have our advocacy day this year, is to go in with a story and to be able to share your story kind of succinctly but powerfully, and then ask or talk about what helped you at that point or what would have made a difference, and then be clear with an ask. So it seemed like a good formula for success for meeting with our legislative folks, whether it's at a local or this U.S. Senate, it doesn't matter. And she's like, yeah, they kind of want to, hear from, people who are policy wonks or whatever, but really they wanted to hear from their constituents. So I thought she was great, but I actually thought the whole series was great. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Debbie. I agree that it's so important to use our own voices. And
yep.
When I was living in Maine, I testified in support of a bill to fund recovery resources for psychosis, and it passed because, and I really think that one of the reasons that it passed was because so many people, myself included, shared their personal narratives at that hearing. So I absolutely think that there's power in that.
Yeah.
And I did see a question on Facebook about where we'll be releasing information about the projects we discussed earlier. I'm sure we'll be releasing information on Facebook. Aaron, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, so for things like our parent presentations, those are school specific, the parent presentations that Tina mentioned. So those invitations are going out from the school to the parents. For something like Sources of Strength, we mentioned on our website, our community partners who work with young people are bringing it to their attention. Our newsletter is always a place to get that information, and our social media accounts. For all the classes that Debbie mentioned, the support groups and the educational classes, that's on the NAMI Juneau website, so namijuneau.org. We also advertise those on social media, and we have a NAMI Juneau newsletter as well. For Mel's project, I think it's a little bit more less settled how the final form and how that's going to be rolled out, and whether we're doing that targeted or if we just do that general outreach thing. But in general, our newsletter and our social media are the best way to know about the stuff that is being rolled out and that is open and available to the public. And of course, like coming to our coalition meeting. So Suicide Prevention Coalition is not just a clever name, but there is actually a coalition behind it, a group of volunteers who are our partners in planning and carrying out all the work. So we meet the third Wednesday of the month at 4 o'clock. And again, we advertise those on a newsletter and on social media and all those places. So great place to stay informed and figure out how to be involved if you want to be involved in our work. So very relevant question. Let's see, I think that's about it. That's our stuff. Oh wait, I didn't say the one that stuck out to me. There is one last thing. So the presentation that stuck out to me, I think it was our veteran and active duty military members sharing their stories of recovery. I think like, I probably said this about multiple things already. I said about the care line, so I'm kind of full of it. But if there's one thing we can do that's helpful, I think it's sharing stories of recovery to show that it's possible, that it looks different for different people, that if one thing doesn't work, something else very well could, that you have options. And I think that our two presenters for that particular presentation were awesome at illustrating the long, winding, sometimes confusing, sometimes straightforward, sometimes misleading path of promoting your own mental health and recovery from mental illness. So love their presentation, the amount of vulnerability they both showed to share very personal things was fantastic. But they weren't the only ones to do that. Mel also did an incredible presentation sharing her story. She did one this morning to students at YDHS. She did one as a part of this series forever ago, which I think was September 1st. And so I think just anyone else who's being that vulnerable and turning themselves to the world is doing this cause a great service. So kudos to all those folks. So that's it. That's what we've done. That's our stuff. Thanks everyone who has watched along. Thanks for sending in questions, and thanks to you all on here right now for being such an awesome part of a month-long series of presentations. So thanks Mel, Tina, Rob, and Debbie. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks to the
Yes,
viewers.
thank you.
And thank you to Christy and our other typewall captioners for having captions throughout this presentation, this series of presentations. It's been really great to provide that service.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you all
I'd
so much.
also like to say a big thank you to all of the many partners that joined us throughout the month.
So if we were in person and there wasn't a pandemic, this would be a large group hug with probably 40 or 50 people in it.
And food, lots of food.
Lots of food. All right, thanks everybody. That's all we got. We'll see you all in many different capacities.
Stay connected.